Hello, my research topic is impact of environment on foreign language acquisition. In our case, it is how learning English in its native countries and in non-English speaking countries influences the learning process. So my research aims to find out the pros and cons of learning English both in its native and non-English speaking countries in order to discover a better environment for studying. Nowadays, approximately 20% of the world population, which equals to 1.5 billion people, are learning English language. Among them, 750 million they learn language as a foreign language, and the rest and 375 million people they learn English as a second language, and these numbers are only expected to grow, and approximately by 2020 there will be 2 billion people who learn and use language. And nowadays parents and families, they do not know whether to send their children abroad or to let them stay at their home country to study English, and they do not know whether the results will justify their money. So as a participants, we chose 6 people, among them 3 learning English in America, and the other 3 learning it in their home country, which is Kazakhstan. So we divided them into pairs. First pair is native speakers who speak English fluently. The second pair is advanced learners, and the last one is pre-intermediate learners. Besides them, we decided to take 2 more secondary acts. One of them moved to America at the age of 5 and has a very strong affection on her mother tongue. And the other secondary act, he has been working in America for 8 years, and he has rather good communicating, listening, speaking skills. However, he cannot write correctly, and he cannot use grammar structures. As for research methods, we chose qualitative method based on semi-structured interview. So each participant was interviewed deeply and observed according to the 3 methods that are used in qualitative method, like observation, examining, and inquiring. Also, in our semi-structured interview, we had a set of structured questions, and during the interview, we asked them extra questions depending on their answers. The materials used were questionnaires, IELTS scores of the participants, and also the visual archives in order to compare how they used to speak in their mother tongue before learning language and how they speak now. So studies say that there are 2 environments for learning. The first one is called natural environment, and the second is called formal setting. And both of them have pros and cons. For example, learning in natural environment can be a rather fast process. However, locals, like for example in America, locals use wrong language. They do not follow the grammatical structures and rules, and people who go to America to learn English, they usually fossilize these mistakes and use such language on a daily basis. However, it is not correct. And in formal setting, the process of learning is longer. However, the teacher can relate to the learning process of your students, because most probably he or she had the same learning experience, and they can understand the students' problems with learning language. The stages of the research were first interviewing in English, then interviewing in the participant's mother tongue, and the last one is analyzing and comparing the participants' answers. So interviewing in English, we paid huge attention on how they speak and whether they have good listening skills, on their vocabulary, and how they answer comprehension questions. Also, the last 10 minutes were given to interviewing in participants' first language in order to find out the affection of the English language on their mother tongue. However, we had problems with two participants who have pre-intermediate level. They weren't able to answer the questions in English language, and we first offered them to use dictionaries and translators, but eventually we had to do the whole interview in their mother tongue. Our hypothesis was that it is easier and faster to learn English in its native society, in its native environment, and there is more focus on listening and speaking, but less on grammar and writing. And the students who learn English in America, they have better pronunciation and a bigger mother tongue affection on their mother tongue. As for the non-English speaking countries, we think that they have better grammar skills and they have an occurrence of mother tongue interference, and they also during the learning process they rely more on grammar rules rather than on the context, and this leads to not being able to use the language in the real life. Having interviewed every participant, we found out that many of those who learn English in America, for example, VP, who has been living there for 5 years, when he just started learning English, he couldn't understand the grammar structure, and it was hard for him to use grammar in the real life. So he facilitated the wrong language, and after that he had a very huge motivation to learn it, and he decided to learn on his own. That's how in 1 year he fully acquired grammar on his own without the help of school where he studied in America. However, our other participant, the one who has been working there for 8 years, he has very bad grammar and writing skills because he would never study there, but he has very good communicating skills because his work requires it, and he cannot even spell the words correctly. And as for a non-English speaking country, they have very good grammar skills, and first they learn on first they learn grammar, and after that they learn listening, speaking, like writing, reading, and other skills. In America, they first learn listening and speaking, and this leads to being forced to use the language without knowing its structure. That's why they are illiterate in English language. But in non-English speaking countries, they have not that very strong listening and speaking skills. They don't have that wide range of vocabulary, and both of the environments appear to have mother tongue interference. in students who learn English in America, they have a very strong affection on their first language. Like some of them even couldn't speak in their mother tongue correctly, and they think and count and do everything in English, and it became as if it was their first language. In non-English speaking countries, there is no affection on the first language, as students use their mother tongue in their everyday life, and they are not forced to use English language all the time. In conclusion, it is up to everyone, it is individual whether student wants to study abroad or study language in his home country. But in case of English, if you want to study English in America, for example, you need to have a very strong motivation to learn grammar on your own, and making some extra classes, because usually students who learn it there, they are very illiterate, and they cannot use the right language. But however, they have very strong speaking and listening skills. They have rich vocabulary, and they can use language on a daily basis. But their writing and grammar skills, they are rather weaker than those who study English in their mother country. And for those who study English in their home country, this process takes more time. However, students become very literate in English language. They can write essays in English language, following all the grammatical structures, following punctuation, and however, they have weaker speaking and listening skills, and usually they cannot use the language in the real life, and their vocabulary is also not that rich, because their society doesn't force them to use the language. Concerning the mother tongue, the affection on the mother tongue, those who go abroad, they are more likely to start forgetting their first language, and starting thinking and doing everything in English language. And those who study English in their home country, there is no risk of forgetting their first language, which is a disadvantage of learning English in your home country. So if you have any questions, you can ask in comments, or you can just read the whole research paper. All the details and specific information is provided there. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to делать пока.